All hits all the time. Star 98.3. That's Matchbox 20. A little unwell. 7:37. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. We have a guest in studio with us this morning, Len Zuza. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
Hey, I hate to break in, but just real quick, I wanted to make mention of this for our listeners that are traveling in Calvert County, which is part of your district, Len. Northbound Route 4, south of 260 in the area of Cheney Road, there's a vehicle overturned. One lane at this time is closed. Use caution. Route 4, northbound, heads up this morning. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
So we have Len Zuza in studio, who is running to be a delegate and would like to have your vote on the 4th. And this is part of an ongoing, pardon the pun, campaign that we've been running to give people opportunity to meet candidates. So, Len, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell folks a little bit about you.
Well, I'm Len Zuza. I am running for delegate in District 29C, as T-Bone just said. I spent 23 years on the White House budget staff, looking at billions of dollars of program every year, trying to find waste and inefficiency. I want to go up to Annapolis and do the same thing there on the state budget. Mm-hmm. I have three top priorities that I want to focus on. One is to complete the design and engineering studies for the replacement of the Thomas Johnson Bridge.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
I need to emphasize that I won't be able to find the full $800 million, but I will be able to find a few tens of millions, and I know bureaucracy. I will really work hard to move that through the system. Number two, I think that we really need to focus more on education, both as a matter of giving families the opportunity so that their children get better lives with better educations, better jobs, and also for economic reasons. As we look to the high-tech industries down at Lexington Park that are looking to diversify their defense technology for civilian applications, they're going to need well-trained individuals in the skilled trades, specialty welders, electricians, computer specialists, and they're also going to need people with college degrees and advanced degrees in narrowly focused areas.
A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything, but it's an economic matter as much as a family values matter. And finally, I ran the Southern Maryland Oyster Cultivation Society for 7 years. We planted 12 million oysters in the creeks of the lower Patuxent. We want to continue removing pollution, again, for economic reasons as well as altruistic, if you will, reasons about cleaning the environment. If we were to ever have a major incident of water pollution in Solomon's Harbor, had a bunch of dead fish there, companies won't want to relocate down here. Families will be uncomfortable about things. So
Sure,
I'm
of course they would.
looking to the environment and want to clean it up.
A lot of folks have come through here, and a lot of politicians, and one of the things I've heard 1,000 times people talking about taxes. You've taken a different little tact on this. Why don't you explain what your focus is?
Well, my focus on taxes is, again, more of a pragmatist than an ideologue. I think I put taxes in the same category as a root canal. Nobody likes to have a root canal, but if you've got a badly infected tooth and it needs to be repaired, you'd rather take the pain, have it extracted, than have it be a life-threatening situation. Sure. As I look to the taxes that people focus on mostly, the Chesapeake Bay Restoration Fund and the Stormwater Control Act, which people like to refer to as the flush tax and the rain tax.
Right.
I put them in the same category. Number one, the rain tax. We don't pay it down here in St. Mary's County and Calvert County.
Not yet.
Not yet. I myself will oppose any effort to extend it down to either county. But the thing that's more important is we need to focus more on geography than on finances. People have to remember, we're at the end of the stream.
Yeah.
We have people upstream whose septic systems are being cleaned up, whose sewage treatment plants are being cleaned up, and these taxes are reducing the amount of toxic materials being washed down the river. If we were to overcome that, we would be seeing more sewage coming down the Patuxent and Potomac rivers. We would be seeing more toxic materials coming down. We have to weigh and balance that against these taxes, particularly since we're not paying the rain tax down here. And I would like to see a more balanced approach to these things.
Okay. You've been involved with a number of, for lack of better words, environmental
Conservation organizations.
Sure. Correct.
One of the big projects that's coming to Southern Maryland is, of course, the Dominion Project.
Right.
What's your take on that?
My take on that is twofold. Number one, having spent 23 years in finance, I look at the fact that the Calvert Commissioners took an organization, Dominion, whose dividend increased every year from 2008 to 2012 for their stockholders. They gave them $333 billion of tax concessions. Dominion's finances were strong enough they could have financed most of their project themselves. Calvert County didn't have to give away $333 billion. Secondly, I look to the fact that it is an accomplished fact. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has approved the permits, so has the state. What we need to focus on now is protecting the residents of the area and protecting the workers at the plant. We see dangers from the very explosive materials that are going to be handled there at the facility. We see
Which are being handled now, too.
which are being handled now.
Right.
But
There hasn't been a problem down there yet. I think it's interesting that that plant has been there for 40 years, and now all of a sudden there's a concern about the residents from the residency, with all due respect to the people of Cove Point. Well, seriously. And now respect to how dangerous the plant is. You haven't heard a peep in 40 years, and all of a sudden they're talking about expansion. I'm curious as to where the issue is coming from and why people all of a sudden are so concerned.
I appreciate your point that the plant has been around for 40 years, but we have to put it in perspective. I'm a boater. I sailed past that facility many times. I've never seen an LNG tanker there bringing liquefied natural gas in. So for a large part of that 40 years, there was no activity at that facility because of the economics of it. Simply LNG wasn't priced right here. So you're absolutely right. But at the same time, if there were to be an incident, the failure could be catastrophic. All I'm saying is we need to protect people. We need to make sure that FERC enforces regulations.
Are you happy with the regulations that are in place right now?
As an analyst, I would have to say I haven't had a chance to fully investigate them. I
Right.
will be looking at, as delegate, I would certainly look at them closely, and I would try to enforce them, not just for the danger of an explosion, but we do know that Dominion has been allowed to increase the amount of emissions with carbon dioxide and other materials that could be toxic. All I'm saying is we need to do a serious job of making sure that Dominion continues to comply with EPA rules, Maryland Department of the Environment, and these other areas.
Yeah, I think that's spot on correct. I do think that, and we talked about this a little bit. The bureaucracy of business has gotten to be exceedingly top heavy. What's your take on that? Do you agree? And if so, what would you do to fix it?
I do agree that bureaucracy, and I think it's as much the interpretation of regulations that are problematic rather than the actual regulations themselves. What we need to do is to look to what the regulations are, both federal and state. We need to make sure that they are simplified so that businesses and property owners, if they want to add a bulkhead to their property,
Right.
if they want to build something, will have a better idea of what they can do, when they can do it, and most importantly, how much it will cost.
And that's
Yeah,
interesting
right.
that you bring that up because the whole Plan Maryland aspect of Annapolis taking over maybe more regulation, taking it out of local governments. I mean, don't you think local governments have a pretty good idea of what's going on in their counties? And maybe Annapolis should stay a little bit out of it and pay attention to Annapolis and let the counties deal with permits and bulkheads and things like that.
Well, Heather, that's a good observation, but I'd like to go back to my earlier comment about geography. We're downstream of most of the counties in Maryland that put things into the Potomac and Patuxent rivers.
Right.
They don't necessarily care what's happening downstream. As far as I'm concerned, we know when people upstream eat asparagus for dinner.
Right.
We want to make sure that they continue to reduce pollution in their areas. When I was the head of the Southern Maryland Oyster Cultivation Society, I talked to people in Frederick, Maryland, and I said, why should you be concerned about our oyster program down in 100 miles away from you? And I said, for the simple reason that the pollution that you put into your streams and creeks that comes down to us also reduces the quality of the environment in your area.
Sure it
Your
does.
kids can't play in those creeks. They're not as healthy for fishing and recreational activities. So what we have to do is that in some of these communities, they don't care about folks downstream. We need to make sure that the regulations are there that will protect us because the folks upstream may not see the same implications of what they're doing.
What
Gotcha.
prompted you to decide to get into politics?
To run.
Frankly, it was what the Calvert commissioners did and didn't do when it came to Dominion. The biggest complaint that I have and that I saw in our community was the failure to provide information to the citizens to enable them to participate in the decision. I had the highest level of security clearances when I was working on the White House budget staff. And while I understand that there are some issues that are matters of national security, there are some issues that are matter of commercial proprietary information that they
The
don't.
government should never go into a gag order or when they're with a business with a business of the county. I agree with you.
I can see where in some cases they need to, but I'm looking to the fact that now the citizens around Cove Point are
Right.
desperate to find a safe evacuation route. So, for example, I've been doing my politicking on a bicycle. And I've been in many of the communities in the area. I was going to do it along Cove Point Road, and all of a sudden I looked and I said, oh my goodness, there are no shoulders there.
No.
There's no sidewalk.
Construction going on.
And I was
Right.
there during the time when people are coming home from work. Cars are zipping down Little Cove Point Road. If there was no safe avenue for me to ride my bicycle there, imagine what it would be like if there's an accident at that facility and you have 3,000 homeowners stuck in Cove Point in parts of Chesapeake Ranch Estate that can't get out.
I can't get out because of the bridge either.
They can't get, and
That's
we-
even a
Yeah,
bigger
that's
problem.
even a bigger problem.
and the problem with the bridge that I see is that the state of Maryland has a schedule where the bridge is every bridge in Maryland is supposed to be is supposed to be checked once every 2 years.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They've been doing it every 2 months down here, and they've gone through not just one but two repairs to the bridge locally. Something's wrong. We need to get more information on this. We need to get a better fix on it. We need to replace it.
Yes,
How
we
do people find out more about Len Zuza?
They can go to my website, Zuza, www.zuza for delegate, and that's FOR, not the number 4.
Exactly.
.com, and there is information there. On our website, you can find my email address. You can find my home phone number. I encourage people to call me. The motto of my campaign is listens and leads. I do believe in listening to people. I know that I can get things done, but I need to know what people find the most important things need to be done.
Okay.
And I want to learn from them, work with them. And that's everything from the residents in various areas to the first responders, police, firemen, EMTs, and so forth. I need to know what their values are, what their needs are, so that I can work with them to make their lives better.
All right. Well, listen, if you want to
Excellent.
find out more about him, again, the website is Zuza4delegate.com. That is Zuza, Zuza, 4FOR. I'm going to let you spell delegate yourself. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be voting. But find out about him. And if you like what you hear, go out and cast your vote on the 4th. Len, thanks for coming in today. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk with you and to talk with the residents down here in Southern Maryland.
All right, thank you. It's 10 minutes in front of 8 o'clock, 7:50. Let's get a check of traffic. We'll do that for you in just a minute.